Welcome to Biospaces the Weekly. Today we'll catch you up on all the results coming out of ADA this past weekend in New Orleans. We'll also touch on M&A activity in biopharma so far this year. It has definitely been picking up, with GSK making headlines just this week with a $10.6 billion acquisition. And the FDA is still front and center in our coverage as we await news of who will replace Marty Makary as the next commissioner. Let's dig in. Hello, guys. How y'all doing?
Hi.
Hello. I'm doing well.
ADA and ASCO are over now, so I am doing great. Knock on wood, because I know something will pop up, regulatory crisis or something.
I know.
It has been busy this conference season.
It's been really wild and just kind of nonstop. Hopefully heading into the summer, we're about to cool down, but we'll see.
We have AAIC coming up in July, though.
That's right. Well, Annalee and I will both be heading off to Bio just a couple more weeks. We'll be together in person.
Yeah. I can tell you, Jeff, all about my plans to maybe get some annoying birds. You'll be really thrilled.
Oh, okay. What kind of birds are you looking at?
Okay, so I really want to get maybe some guinea fowl. Have you guys ever heard of guinea fowl? Mm-hmm. They're like these little polka dot birds, and they have really ugly faces, but and they're also really stupid and very loud, but they will eat their weight in ticks and bugs. So I'm like trying to decide if I can stand the loudness and annoyingness for the bugs situation.
They live outside, though, the guinea fowl do.
No, yeah. These are not indoor birds.
Okay.
No.
I was going to say, what about a parrot? That'd be fun, like for inside.
I mean, no. I mean, it would make a really good podcast guest, but yeah, I don't know. But then again, prior to getting on this podcast, there was like a cricket outside my window that was about to disrupt the podcast. So I just don't know if adding guinea fowl to the mix is really going to be helpful.
Yeah, if the cricket was irritating you.
They probably would eat the crickets. You're right. I could fix that problem.
I love this idea of putting birds to work for you. I actually saw this reel and sent it to my friend the other day because she recently got chickens. And there was this reel about, you see all these videos of training crows. You can train crows to come to you, bring you gifts or whatever. But this one was on training crows to protect your chickens from the local hawks. And he literally had a murder of crows doing his protection and her surveillance so that his chickens would be safe. And I thought, this is brilliant.
Amazing. I love it.
All right.
Well, I'll let you guys know if I do decide.
Please do. Yes. We might be able to just hear them on the podcast one day. All right. Well, let's get to our show. Heather, why don't you start us off with introductions today?
Sure. My name is Heather, and I am a senior editor at Biospace in charge of ClinicaSpace, which hits your inboxes every Monday.
Thank you. And Annalee?
I am Annalee Armstrong, senior editor, and I do the Biopharm Executive Newsletter, which goes out Wednesday mornings.
And last but not least, our newest team member, Gabby.
I'm Gabrielle Mason, and I put together our weekly manufacturing brief and our daily newsletter called Gene Pool.
And I'm Jeff Axt, managing editor, and I just hang out with these fine folks every day. So as I said, one of our big headlines this week was, many of our big headlines this week were all coming out of ADA, or the American Diabetes Association. This is their annual conference. It was in New Orleans this past weekend. And although it has diabetes in the name, it has become basically the weight loss conference. So we have our two leading rivals, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, tons of presentations and data to share. Everything's coming up roses for Eli Lilly. They boasted positive results for their new pill Foundeo, as well as the next-gen asset retatrutide, across not just weight loss, but other obesity-related indications. This included sleep apnea, knee pain, and menopause. So we'll get to some of those results. And then, like I said, rival Novo Nordisk is also at ADA, huge presence there, and is also looking to expand beyond a weight loss to other, and beyond diabetes, I should say, as well. They both have approvals in diabetes and weight loss and are looking to expand beyond that. We have a couple of additional indications, but these companies are really going after more. In Novo's case, they're looking at asthma-related adverse events, blood pressure, liver disease, and this is specifically for their semaglutide products. So Novo presented lots of data supporting these expansions at the meeting, and then they had executives sit down with analysts over dinner. And the word we heard coming out of that dinner was pretty positive. The analysts seemed to think that maybe the company is turning a corner after a couple of really rough years, and the successful launch of Wegovy pill would be contributing to a step in the right direction for Novo. So Biospace was all over these updates. We're going to dive into each of these in a little bit more detail now. Annalie and Heather, you were all over these. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so I think the biggest story was probably Lilly's triple G retatrutide data. That was kind of, I believe that was on Monday that came out. The drug elicited what BMO Capital Markets called impressive weight loss, with patients losing 30.3% body weight at 104 weeks. This topped their previous data that showed 28.3% at 80 weeks. William Blair said that this broke a new record in the, quote, weight loss Olympics. So really shows you the stakes here.
Yeah, that one, weight loss Olympics, that's going to stick. I actually said it in an email to somebody yesterday. But yeah, this is absolutely crazy. I mean, this is in the realm of bariatric surgery, which I think they even in their press release when they first announced these data said. And this is achieving that kind of weight loss, which is really important for a number of people for health reasons and without surgery. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and just a reminder that this drug, they are not necessarily suggesting that this is something that everybody should use. This is something that Lilly is raising up as something that can be used for very severe cases of obesity. So this is maybe not going to be what everyday people use all the time, just given the weight loss that is possible with this. However, analysts have said that maybe there could be some fine tuning because lower doses are also yielding pretty impressive weight loss. So a pretty interesting product that I think is going to change things once it reaches the market. So that was great. Very exciting to see Lilly achieve more weight loss. But what I actually thought was the coolest readout from Lilly was some data that they showed in menopause. So they showed that patients who were peri and post-menopause lost weight at similar rates. So this was for Lilly's Foundayo, which is their approved oral option. It's a GLP-1. And this is really a key, I think, because women, when they go through menopause, can gain weight due to hormonal changes, and it can be really hard to overcome that. So they were able to show that their drug does work in this condition. And I think it's always positive to see women's health highlighted. It's so rare to see, especially a major company, really highlighting women's health. So I thought that was one of the cooler readouts that happened at the conference.
For sure, yeah. And Novo presented a lot of data on their kind of obesity-related indications that they're targeting too. So, liver disease, kidney disease. But, what I thought was the most interesting, as Jeff said, was the added confidence that the analysts seem to have with Novo. So they hosted a little soiree, and BMO analysts were impressed with the strategy that CEO Mike Dustar and CFO Karsten Munk-Knudsen shared at that dinner. So according to BMO, they acknowledged that the company's recent challenges, had happened, but they also provided confidence that change is afoot. So that's good news. And that was kind of just the idea I've been getting around Novo lately is that things are looking up.
Yeah, and I don't think it's standard protocol for a CEO to attend a meeting like ADA. I certainly don't think that Eli Lilly's David Ricks was there. I guess it just kind of shows the full court press that Novo is doing right now to regain that ground.
Yeah, they're doing a good job too. They seem to be getting organized on the media front as well. They have a new guy who seems pretty on top of it.
Yeah, I was going to say that just we've been waiting for that turnaround since there were the major changes at Novo, changing out the CEO, changing up the board. There's been a lot of restructuring. And so this is exactly what analysts in the industry have been waiting for.
I think something else that's helping a lot is how the Wegovy pill launch is going. So Novo announced this weekend that that pill has crossed the 3 million prescription threshold. And that's just since January, because they were approved in late December and launched the product in January, and 3 million prescriptions already.
I think that's a huge part of it. They had first to market advantage with the injectables, but then they lost that lead over time to Lilly. I think they, with this shorter 4-month lead on the oral front, they were, full court press to get that out there and take advantage and kind of saturate the market. Of course, now we do have Foundayo, and Lilly's getting plenty of prescriptions as well, but Novo seems to be doing just fine.
Right, and I actually just talked to Kylira's CCO, who led the launch of Zepbound at Eli Lilly, and she told me that launch just like absolutely defied everything they thought, and it seems like these pills are going to do that all over again.
Yeah. Well, now we should pivot briefly to diabetes. Like I said at the top, this is a diabetes conference, and we actually did get a pretty interesting diabetes result out of it in a head-to-head of Lilly versus Novo, and drum roll, you can guess who won.
Yeah, kind of unsurprising at this point. Lilly did come out on top. So that was also for Foundayo, and it found in a late stage phase 3 program that Foundayo reduced blood sugar more than Novo's semaglutide and also more than other available treatments for type 2 diabetes. So BMO Capital Markets wrote that Foundayo has shown a consistently competitive profile in the indication, and Lilly now plans on filing for approval sometime this quarter.
Yeah, really interesting that both Zepbound and Wegovy came out, they weren't called that, but they came out first for diabetes and then made it into weight loss. And now with these oral options, it was straight to weight loss. And now they're like, oh, let's add diabetes as well.
Yeah, it's the reverse.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, moving on from the front runners now, everyone, of course, wants a piece of this pie in the rapidly expanding weight loss space. So another big pharma looking to enter the market is Roche in partnership with Zealand Pharma. Annalie and Heather, you guys teamed up to cover this update. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I always like covering the kind of so-called underdogs, and Roche and Zealand would count here. So phase 2 data from petrelintide, which the two are partnered on, only elicited 9% placebo-adjusted weight loss after 42 weeks, and that data was reported back in March. So this didn't exactly wow investors. But last week, Annalie and I spoke with executives from the companies, and they defended these results. Manu Chakravarthi, he's the global head of cardiovascular, renal, and metabolism product development. What a title! He told me that this isn't the point of petrelintide. So excessive weight loss is not the point. The idea is that it could become a more tolerable first line option for obesity. And this kind of goes right back to what Annalie was saying in terms of not everyone will want to take what I call Retta. It's really looking. I've noticed at ADA that there's a lot more segmentation happening or starting to happen.
Right. And I talked to Zealand CEO Adam Steensberg, and he said that in the medium to long term, people are really going to want some of these easier assets, things that they can stay on, and things that they can adhere to. I think that this was, good sentiment from both of them. However, this is a really competitive space. I do see a patient segment, those who can't tolerate the other drugs that are already out there, but I just wonder how big that market is. Patients have really shown that what they will do to access these drugs and what they're willing to accommodate or deal with to achieve that weight loss. So I think it's going to be tough for some of these other companies that are achieving lower weight loss. There's probably room in the kind of long-term maintenance market where people start with the higher power drugs and then taper off and change to something else. I think we got to wait until these drugs get on the market to see how patients are going to react. But it's kind of a tough call right now to see how some of these, as you call them, the underdogs are going to do.
Right. And there's so many of them. There's way more results from ADA than we can cover here. But, Roche and Zealand is just one of those many quote unquote underdogs, one of the many that are trailing Novo and Lilly trying to get into this market with differentiated products, either due to their tolerability profile or otherwise. Just to preview a couple here, we also caught up with Kylira Therapeutics after its record-setting IPO. Pfizer had some data on a key asset from its big Metsera buy, and there were others. Like I said, there's way more than we can cover here. Definitely check out the Biospace website for all of our ADA coverage. And with that, let's move on from ADA for a minute. The biggest news of this past week, actually outside of ADA, actually came just on Tuesday as we're recording this, as GSK struck the biggest traditional biotech pharma M&A of the year so far. It bought out Nuvalent Bio and its oncology pipeline for $10.6 billion. This deal is second only to a slightly less traditional deal with a generics company, Sun Pharma, buying Organon for $11.75 billion. Outside of that, this was, like I said, the biggest traditional big pharma buyout of a biotech. And then we also had a smaller deal on Monday. J&J notched a buyout of Firefly Bio for $1 billion. Much less in value there, but these deals do add to the continued uptick that we've seen in M&A in biopharma just this year. And of course, much of that momentum is being driven by Eli Lilly and its GLP-1 cash.
Yes, super thanks to J&J and GSK. I had to update my analysis that I have in the works. So you can see that story. It's in Biopharm Executive today as you listen to this. But basically what I found, Lilly has signed 10 deals this year, which is like an unprecedented pace. I took a look at their deal history and the history of the top 10 pharmas by revenue over the past 10 years. Lilly has now signed 30 total M&A transactions, which easily overtook Novartis, which has done 26. It's just, what I think is really interesting is deal count really has no correlation to deal amount. You look at Bristol Myers Squibb bought Celgene in a deal that was almost $100 billion after all was said and done. So I kind of took a look at those different metrics. So you can see that in Biopharm Exec this week. I also talk about Lilly's licensing deals, which are also a key part to how they're going to build out their next gen pipeline.
Definitely check that one out. We all know Annalie is a whiz with her data journalism, but this is one of the coolest charts she has ever made. You can click through the different years and just visually see who was the biggest buyer that year. And like you said, Annalie, it surprised me that in some of those years, one pharma would be by far the biggest piece of the pie with a single mega buyout. Whereas this year, Eli Lilly clearly has the biggest piece of the pie, but no single blockbuster deal. It's just a ton of these bolt-ons that it keeps doing.
Yeah, and we all tried to guess who was going to have spent the most, and we were all wrong. So,
yep, check it out. Try to make your own guesses, and then test yourself with Annalie's chart.
Yeah.
Okay, pivoting yet again. FDA still front and center in our coverage. We are still lacking a commissioner at this point. Acting Commissioner Kyle Diamante seems to have the respect of FDA staff and has made some moves to try to reestablish public and industry trust. We'll touch a little bit more on those later. But first, there has been a report, the first report we've seen of a possible permanent replacement for Marty Makary as the next leader of the agency.
Yeah, so the White House is reportedly considering Norman Sharpless for the post of FDA commissioner, according to CNN. So Sharpless, who previously led the National Cancer Institute, has been a pretty vocal critic of HHS Secretary Kennedy's vaccine policies. Maybe this is the White House kind of trying to send a message that walks back some of RFK's prior vaccine sentiment, though HHS hasn't publicly confirmed Sharpless's candidacy with the press.
Yeah, this is just a report at this point, so we will definitely watch that. Very eager to see who it will be and when this will actually happen. We've had so much turnover at FDA leadership this year that everyone is eager to get stable leadership back in place. But as we wait to see how the commissioner role shakes out, we do want to understand a little bit more about how Marty Makary's programs, initiatives that he started during his tenure, will play out. One in particular that has caused some drama is the commissioner's National Priority Voucher Program. Makary started this with his CBER director, Vinay Prasad. First announced it last year and then had a couple of different iterations of recipients of these vouchers. Basically, it's a program to expedite review of products that fit certain national priorities. But from the beginning, as we've reported a ton, there have been questions and concerns surrounding this initiative to the point that Sanofi actually requested its drug Tzield or Zield, I'm not sure how to pronounce that one.
Tzield,
okay.
I usually call it, yeah.
Be removed from the CNPV program. So that was pretty dramatic. This seems like a good thing, shorten review times, but there's been just so many questions about it and so much involvement of FDA leadership in the reviews that Sanofi actually wanted out. So the new update here is last week, the FDA held a listening session to get some feedback on that program. And they actually ended up getting multiple calls to pause the program at this point. So Heather, what more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I kind of wonder if FDA had, expected that or not expected that kind of decisive request for action. But yeah, the CNPV program has been kind of this Pandora's box from the beginning. And during this listening meeting, patient representatives, industry, and trade groups all expressed concerns with the limited transparency with which the program was launched and has been implemented, as well as the vagueness of criteria by which the awards are given out. Both of these topics are ones that I and we have reported on extensively in the past few months. Representative Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts has also raised concerns around the transparency of the program, just basically requests from Congress for information that weren't heeded. And yeah, so it's been a bit of a can of worms, to use another idiom.
So outside of just the lack of clarity on the program, have you heard any other specific concerns?
Yeah, I mean, experts I've talked to have mentioned the criteria, the selection criteria, as being a big one. The second round of vouchers last fall included mostly approved products. The only one on the November list, that was the second group, that wasn't approved yet was Lilly's Foundeo, which is obviously a weight loss pill. And the first 9 vouchers were more in line with what you typically think of as a priority indications, ones for rare diseases and ones with high unmet need cancers. But this isn't necessarily the focus that they'd intended, right? I mean, so some of these national priorities, like you were saying, Jeff, are addressing a public health crisis, increasing affordability, both of which Foundeo would match, as well as onshoring drug development is another one. But a lot of people are just confused about a lot of the new rare disease pathways as well. We've had a few of them: the plausible mechanism pathway, the REDP, rare disease evidence principles. Just because there are so many of them. So in Clinica Space this week, we put out an explainer detailing each one, and hopefully that's helpful for people.
Yeah, there are so many. There's the new ones and the older ones, and understanding how they all fit together and what are the evidence, what are the criteria that are needed for approval or even to be accepted into the program for priority review or whatever it is. So yeah, that is a really helpful explainer to try to differentiate between all these programs. But there's a limit to what we can provide given the open questions that nobody seems to have answers to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of open questions with the plausible mechanism framework. It's now called a framework as well. So there was another meeting last month held by Cedar and Sieber, where FDA leaders clarified that this program should be looked at as a framework instead of an approval pathway. So that was good clarity. But people are still confused, mainly with how broadly it can be implemented. So is this framework just for N of 1 diseases, just for examples like KJ, baby KJ, who had a personalized CRISPR treatment developed just for him, and he's doing really well. But the thing is that not a lot of biopharma companies are creating N of 1 therapies because it just doesn't fit the biotech mold, the economic mold. So that's a question a lot of people have. And as well, the plausible mechanism, along with other new rare pathways and guidance, also include a lot about external controls and real world evidence. And these, as we well know, have tripped up a number of companies, including Biohaven and Unicure recently.
Yeah, that actually relates to another FDA announcement this past week. It did encourage the use of prior knowledge to speed up development timelines for cell and gene therapies. Again, a welcome development, external controls, real world evidence. But this speaks to this very concern and confusion in the industry with a handful of rare disease drug developers getting those surprise rejections or otherwise being turned away from the FDA. I mean, you mentioned Biohaven and Unicure. I can also think of Replimune and Capricor. We've covered all of these where there was some use of external control and the FDA was not on board with the application. So I think there just needs to be more clarity here. FDA has, with this new guidance, doubled down on the fact that they are encouraging of the use of prior knowledge or external controls to help expedite approvals of these therapies, but there needs to be better communication between FDA and industry on the nature of those controls and what they will accept.
Right.
All right. Well, with that, we will sign off for today. Please join us back next week where we have plenty more updates from the world of biopharma.